It's a war with no end in sight, being fought between two of the most dangerous gangs in America.
I'm willing to take a bullet for one of my brothers, and my brothers are willing to take a bullet for me.
At stake, control of Northern California, pride and domination.
Firearms, edge weapons, blunt objects, anything that they can utilize to fight with, they will.
Their total focus is on hatred for the enemy. They have a policy of shoot or kill on sight if they can.
The Hells Angels and the Mongols are locked in a battle to the death.
It's last man standing. Fights may last a brief period of time. A war goes on forever.
War's hell. That's the bottom line.
San Francisco, California. The city by the bay was the site of the counterculture revolution of the 60s and is home to the Golden Gate Bridge.
San Francisco is known for its kind of rough and tumble Barbary Coast past, and there's still a lot of that wildness, but it's also a big tourist city.
Today, this ever-changing city has become something else. San Francisco is the latest front in a long-running battle between two of the most brutal outlaw biker gangs in the world.
The willingness of each gang, the Hells Angels and the Mongols, to use violence for control is one of the things that characterizes those gangs as criminal street gangs.
There's only one goal in this war.
Kill each other. However often they can get the chance. Doesn't matter where it is. Doesn't matter if it's at Disneyland in the middle of summer with school out and 50 or 60 busloads of kids there.
When they happen to run into each other at a roadside rest area or a restaurant or a bar, it's like mixing oil and water.
The fights are erupting not just in San Francisco, but across California. The Hells Angels control the northern part of the state, the Mongols the southern region. But neither is satisfied with the imposed limits.
Traditionally, San Francisco has been Hells Angel country. I mean, this is their turf. And once the Mongols come up from down south and they come in here, it's a slap in the face to the Hells Angels.
The result is a mounting list of casualties. Jorge Gil Blanco is a gang expert with Western States Information Network. He specializes in outlaw motorcycle clubs.
The Mongols and the Hells Angels hate each other so much at this point that their total focus is on doing damage to each other wherever and whenever they can. The collateral damage is of no consequence to them.
The Hells Angels are the biggest biker gang on earth. With 2,500 members and 230 chapters across the United States alone. They demand respect wherever they go.
I don't call it respect, I call it fear and intimidation. Everybody is, unless they're another member, they're fair game, they're just prey.
Anthony Tate, who worked undercover for the FBI, is one of the few men to infiltrate the Hells Angels and live to tell the tale. He even fooled the Angels' legendary leader, Sonny Barger.
Sonny Barger described me, you are the perfect Hells Angel. You're squared away, you're clean, you take care of business. You know, I was wearing a wire at the same time he was telling me this, so it was kind of funny.
His 5 years posing as a member showed Tate just what the Hells Angels are all about.
Stolen vehicles, stolen firearms, narcotics distribution, narcotics manufacturing, extortions of every kind you can imagine. If you can name a crime, they've got their fingerprint on it somewhere.
The Mongols are the Angels' biggest rival. and their cutthroat attitude makes them a dangerous enemy.
It lets you know that a Mongol will always win. A Mongol will always come out on top. You know, if I'm down, I'm gonna get up and keep coming at you until I can't do it anymore.
The Mongols are smaller in number. With just 500 members and about 12 chapters in the U.S., they're outnumbered by 5 to 1 when compared to the Angels.
I love to kick ass. I'll come at you with a smile, but I will fight you just because it's cloudy outside. You know what I mean? That's what I like to do.
When a club is in a war, you're going to do whatever it takes to protect your family and your friends and your brothers. If you see each other in bars, you know, the shit's still on.
Roger Penny is a veteran Mongol and the gang's former national president.
To be honest, I mean, it is an ego boost. I mean, you know, because usually anywhere you go now, I mean, they know who you are.
Penny joined the gang in 1972 and bears the scars of the war with the Angels.
Put my life on the line for the club over and over again. You know, I didn't get stabbed and shot 7 or 8 times for, you know, standing on the sidelines.
Penny says the Mongols take extreme issue with the Hells Angels mandate.
If I want to ride a bike and I want to put on a patch, I'm not going to have somebody tell me where I can ride and where I can, or where I'm going to go. You know what I mean?
The fight between the gangs has lasted 30 years, with a dozen confirmed deaths and countless shootings.
We're at war. I mean, basically, everybody knows that, and that's what's going to happen. But when you're at war, that's just the price you pay.
September 2nd, 2008. The Dirty Thieves Bar in San Francisco's Mission District. An unknown Mongol entered the bar wearing his colors. With the local Hells Angels clubhouse less than a mile away, he seemed to be looking for trouble.
I don't know if he was in that bar that night to kind of test the waters of expanding the Mongols' territory in San Francisco, or if he was just there for a drink.
10:30 p.m. A group of Hells Angels arrived to take care of business.
Taking care of business, it could be anything from killing somebody and burying them, or, you know, killing somebody and dumping their body.
Mark Papa Guardado, the Angels' San Francisco chapter president, was among them. Papa had a reputation for brutality, and he wasn't about to put up with an enemy in the heart of Hells Angels territory.
There was some sort of conflict between him and Mark Guardado, and they went out into the street. They had a little bit of a wrestling match.
The Mongols stabbed Guardado 4 times, then pulled out a gun.
Witnesses said that they saw the fight, they saw them kind of grapple.
Suddenly, shots rang out. Mark Guardado was hit in the head and chest. He fell face down in the street. Witnesses were stunned as the Mongol fled the scene of the crime on his motorcycle.
The fact that he rode off on a motorcycle definitely raised some suspicions that there might be a biker war brewing.
The Angels' code demanded that they seek revenge. Everyone on both sides and the city itself knew what was coming.
They're going to do whatever they want. It doesn't matter what society says or the law says. They got their rules. Nothing else matters.
But once that first punch, or that first kick, or that first bullet goes flying, it's too late for talking.
San Francisco. Residents call it simply the city. Tourists who flock here to see the Golden Gate Bridge, cable cars, and Chinatown call it Frisco. It's also the front line of a brutal gang war between the Hells Angels and the Mongols Motorcycle Club.
They hate each other, they won't do business with each other, they'll kill each other when they can.
The two gangs are sworn enemies, but each started peacefully right here in California.
They originally started, most of the clubs started as just to ride, to have the freedom of riding.
The Hells Angels were founded in 1948 in San Bernardino, 400 miles south of San Francisco. The San Francisco chapter was formed 6 years later in 1954. Over the next 2 decades, the Hells Angels would build themselves into the most powerful motorcycle gang in the world.
The Hells Angels view the world as kind of a them versus us proposition. You and I are citizens. We're not members of the Hells Angels. As such, we're some kind of lesser life form.
In the 1960s, the Hells Angels set up chapters across the United States and had no trouble finding recruits.
There is a big attraction there. There's the drug attraction, there's the violence, there's the women, and it's pretty much the attitude that we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, and get away with it. And nobody can stop us.
The Angels were a force, making money by dealing drugs and defending their turf by any means necessary. But they would soon be challenged. In the 1970s, the Mongols Motorcycle Club roared to life in Montebello, California, taking its name from Genghis Khan's ancient warriors.
It was a tight-knit group of ex-veterans and friends. They got together and they designed a patch, and they went from there.
Roger Pinney joined the gang after a tour of duty in Vietnam.
When I came back from Vietnam, I had this thing that I couldn't cure. It was like a rush for excitement, because I just went through a war, for God's sakes, and you just live on the edge, so to speak.
The open road, outlaw image, and partying drew him in. Riding with the Mongol horde made him stay.
You can imagine being in this long, stretching highway with hundreds of bikes and the roar of engines, and everybody's with you. We're all the same group. We're all Mongols.
By 1973, the former platoon leader, Pinney, had risen to the rank of Los Angeles chapter president. The Mongols began expanding their territory in California and trying to grow their drug business.
They're involved in the illegal drug trade in the sense from anything from small amounts of either methamphetamine, marijuana dealing to pound dealing, kilo dealing quantities.
The Hells Angels noticed, especially when the Mongols modified their colors.
The patch that they wear on their back can be referred to as a patch or a set of colors, and this is sacred to them.
The patch is split into 3 pieces with the gang's name on top, their logo in the middle, and their location on the bottom. This bottom rocker marks their territory. For decades, the Hells Angels' bottom rocker had been California.
The bottom rocker indicated it was their state, California. Any other club could be a city club, but not a state club.
By 1977, the Mongols decided to claim California as their territory. It was a serious insult to the Hells Angels and a threat.
It was territorial. They owned, felt they flew California, it was theirs, period. To them, it was probably the same as flying Hells Angel top rocker.
The Hells Angels ordered the Mongols to remove the patch, but the Mongols weren't about to take orders from anyone.
It was which way we were going to go and how the club, are we going to take this and become a family club, you know, and are we going to stand up to the plate, you know?
The gang put it to a vote. The results weren't surprising.
The Mongols basically decided that, you know, we don't care what the Hells Angels have to say, we don't care what anybody else has to say, we're going to do what we're going to do.
We didn't realize what we were biting off, to be honest with you. But, we did it.
The decision led to the first blows in this war. September 5th, 1977. Escondido, California. 2 Mongols members, Raymond Jingle Smith and Emerson Redbeard Morris, were headed home with their girlfriends in tow. The trip would put them on the Hells Angels' radar, and everyone knew tensions were high.
Redbeards and Jingle asked, should we fly back, brother?
2 San Diego Hells Angels driving in a car came up behind the Mongols, pulled out machine guns, and opened fire. The Mongols were blown off their bikes.
Both of these Mongols were killed. Both of the old ladies were shot up, one of them paralyzed, but both of the women survived.
The shooting signaled the fight was on.
When Redbeards and Jingles got blown off their bike, that's starting the war big time, you know, and that's where we knew the was on.
The Hells Angels weren't done. During the funeral for Smith and Morris, a man arrived with a bouquet of red and white carnations, the Hells Angels' colors. It was the ultimate insult. Then, the car used to deliver the flowers exploded, injuring 3 more Mongols. The gang was enraged and began plans to fight back.
If you shoot one of our guys off his bike, we're gonna come at you with everything we have.
There would be no backing down.
I already lost one war. I wasn't gonna, I've had enough of that. A lot of us veterans said hell with it.
The most deadly biker war in history had begun, and the 80s saw the bodies piling up.
81, a Mongol was killed. 82, 2 Mongols were killed. 88, there was another Hells Angel stabbed to death on the Queen Mary by a Mongol member at a bike show.
By 1994, the bloody gang war had gone on for almost 2 decades, and there was no end in sight. The Mongols approached Hells Angels leader Sonny Barger, who decided enough was enough.
Sonny made the call, say we can just have a meeting and get this thing over with, because it's dragging out forever.
The 2 gangs agreed to share California. The Hells Angels got the northern half, the Mongols the southern. But the truce was short-lived. By 2000, the Mongols decided to start a chapter in Northern California.
We wanted to start a chapter of the Mongols in San Jose, California. The Hells Angels were claiming the Northern California as all theirs. According to them, that was their territory. We were to stay out of it.
The Angels saw it as an act of aggression. The war was back on full force. April 27th, 2002. Laughlin, Nevada. 10,000 bikers, including Mongols and Hells Angels, gathered for the annual Laughlin River Run. The Mongols were in Harris Casino drinking. 2 a.m. Roger Pinney was at the bar when some Hells Angels started heading their way.
After this many years, I just felt something was wrong.
They were there to take care of business, either fight, do whatever they had to do to take care of the Mongols.
Pinney approached the 2 Angels.
We kind of walked off by ourselves, and I said, we need to, there's a problem. What's the problem? Well, we can talk about this, but we need to defuse this bomb before it explodes.
Roger Penny, you can see him on the video, actually walks up, puts his hand on the shoulder of one of the Hells Angels and starts talking to, trying to defuse the situation, trying to calm it down.
Suddenly, one Hells Angel kicked a Mongol in the chest, setting off a vicious fight.
It's like domino effect. The first punch, the first shot, the first stab, whatever.
Penny was trying to help a fellow Mongol when a Hells Angel came up behind him and pulled a knife.
So I grabbed the HA to pull him off my brother, and that's when I was stabbed 3 times. I felt the knives going in and twisting in my back, or my right, and twisting, because he wanted to kill me. And at that point, that's when the bullets started flying.
Penny managed to escape from his attacker. A fellow Mongol helped him out the back door and into a cab. When the battle ended, a Mongol and 2 Hells Angels lay dead.
I found out later that the 2 HA that I was talking to were dead.
The bloodshed escalated the war.
I don't give any, but I certainly don't take any. You want to disrespect me, and I'm going to do what I need to gain my respect.
The problem was the tension was building, and it was like a firecracker ready to happen.
In San Francisco, the world's largest outlaw motorcycle gang, the Hells Angels, are locked in a turf war with their hated enemies, the Mongols Motorcycle Club.
Over the years, you got one guy getting killed, 2 or 3 months later, a couple other guys die mysteriously or in a car accident, or however, they're still just taking care of business with each other.
The Hells Angels mark their territory with their colors, red and white. Businesses owned by the Angels follow suit. Officer Joe Smith of the San Francisco Gang Task Force asked to have his identity concealed. He describes how the Hells Angels use other symbols to show their dominance.
The Hells Angels are big on the San Francisco area code, which is 415. I think that this is kind of a, for lack of a better way of describing it, a Hells Angel town.
Anthony Tate, who worked undercover for the FBI, spent 5 years posing as a Hells Angel.
I never had to kill anyone. I beat up a number of different people, but that was just part of everyday business.
He's experienced the seductive power of the outlaw image.
You get on a motorcycle and you do know that you have a power. When you rack it up and those pipes rack as you're going by a couple of good-looking girls, just turn their head and look.
Tate was a valued member of the Hells Angels.
I had explosives and demolitions and firearms experience from the military, and so that's a pretty well-rounded package in their book.
Tate eventually became the gang's sergeant of arms, responsible for enforcing their will.
Sergeant of arms does exactly that. You tune up the person that needed to be tuned up. It's just the way it is. And hopefully that person survives through that conversation.
The Mongols operate the same way.
I'm what they call a club enforcer. When there's people out there who don't really agree with what has to be taken care of, I make sure that they agree with it. I don't take no for an answer.
The gangs reserve their most violent acts for each other. But collateral damage is acceptable.
The war between the 2 gangs, the Mongols and the Angels, you're there, you're standing 100 feet away, and a bullet just happens to come along and smack you right in the forehead. You're dead. Doesn't matter if you were standing right in the middle. Society does not matter to them.
The Hells Angels show their power in a very public way.
It's very commonplace to see members carrying large knives on their hips, open and exposed, so they can't be arrested for concealing a weapon. Whips are pretty big, used to crack motorists that annoy you when you're riding your bike, break a rear mirror off, or etc.
They also have a specific way to show their hatred of the Mongols.
Occasionally you see acronyms such as AMMD, which allegedly means all Mongols must die.
While these two gangs are willing to kill one another, there is one thing they will not do: violate the outlaw biker code.
I'd never testify against anybody, and that's just the biker way. But the one thing that you do not do in the biker world is rat. That's the way it is.
The battle for California continues. Eureka, 275 miles north of San Francisco. November 7th, 2008. Hell's Angel Robert Thompson was fresh from prison after being acquitted of the murder of 2 young girls. He went to a local bar just before midnight.
My understanding is that he was there to basically show the colors, try to make some inroads in Eureka for the Hells Angels, because it's kind of uncharted territory. There's nobody that really controls that particular area at this point.
A group of Mongols ambushed Thompson, shooting him and leaving him for dead. He barely lived. When the suspects were taken into custody, their tattoos told the story.
We have a kind of a mantra that respect few, fear none.
The respect few, fear none tattoo is worn only by Mongols who've committed violence against the Hells Angels. Mongols flaunt their ink like war paint.
Well, the MFFM that I have right here on my chin, it's Mongols forever, forever Mongols. Well, when I first started, I got these on my face, and a lot of people were looking at me and saying, hey, well, what do you got that genie for, you know? So I put the Mongols over so that they know. I'm proud of my club, so I want everybody to know about it.
The Mongols reward their toughest members with their highest honor.
The Black Heart is given out to a brother that was wounded in the line of duty, basically, or trying to help somebody, or whatever the case.
Roger Pinney has 4 Black Hearts. He earned 1 for his involvement in the 2002 riot in Harrah's Casino in Laughlin, Nevada.
It's kind of rough to talk about because, I saw a lot of people hurt for no reason, But I stood up, I did my thing.
Following the casino battle, the Mongols adopted a new tactic in their war against the Hells Angels. They began recruiting new members from a brutal Hispanic gang known as Sureños. These new members had a vicious reputation.
If they're dealing with Sureños and they get loyalty from that club, then I guarantee that they're definitely going after somebody. They're definitely going to use them for a violent act.
The new recruiting push wasn't supported by all of the Mongols.
They were bringing into the club their old ways, their gang member ways, and they were dealing drugs.
They've taken a lot of people in without doing a good background. They've taken a lot of these wannabes that didn't even have motorcycles into their clubs, just so they could get their volume up and their numbers up.
The decision made the Mongols stronger. It also made the gang more volatile and dangerous.
The Mongols are more of a loose cannon than the Hells Angels would be. The younger guys are the ones that are probably going to be quicker to react.
We were a different club after Laughlin. We were a lot harder. We had to be. So when it came down, we were much more prepared, shall we say.
San Francisco. The city by the bay is the scene of a brutal turf war being waged by two outlaw motorcycle gangs, the Mongols and Hell's Angels.
We're at war. People look at this program like Young Hell's Angels, One Young Mongols, and say, oh, you know, who cares? We'll kill them all.
The Mongols, who are outnumbered by the Angels 5-1, began recruiting from a brutal gang, the Sureños, to help them in their fight.
As a Mongol, we always try to be on the defensive. I mean, when you have that many people, you know, things happen. I mean, you can't, it's hard to control every incident.
Since then, the Mongols have begun to expand their reach into Angels territory.
The minute the Mongols come into San Francisco, they'll be detected because the communication system is very good in San Francisco, and if they're floating through, they're definitely where they're not supposed to be.
September 2nd, 2008. San Francisco's Mission District. Hell's Angels chapter president, Mark Papa Guardado, and a member of the Mongols engaged in a violent fight.
There was a conflict between Papa and this supposed Mongol member outside of the bar on the sidewalk, and a struggle ensued in which the suspect produced a handgun and shot Papa.
The Mongol fled the scene on his motorcycle after pulling the trigger. Papa collapsed, face down in the street.
The paramedics had cut off his shirt, and you could see the big Frisco tattoo on his side.
Papa was rushed to San Francisco General Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. News of the murder spread instantly throughout the city.
This is no ordinary murder. This could be big trouble for the city and for the mission. Everyone was pretty worried that it would mean a big war in San Francisco between the Mongols and the Hell's Angels.
Papa was a popular, respected angel, and his death left the gang burning for payback.
The Hells Angels revered Mark Guardado. He's not afraid to take on the police or take on anybody, including the Mongols or any of their rivals.
September 15th. The Hells Angels laid Papa to rest in the San Francisco suburb of Daly City. The rumbles of more than 2,000 bikes could be heard for miles as the Angels rolled into town to pay their respects.
When the actual procession started, it was not as loud as anything I've heard on the street before. But I mean, the ground really did shake a little bit as the procession went by. It was fitting tribute.
All day, people came roaring up on their Harleys, motorcycle clubs from all over the country and even overseas. It was the biggest funeral Daly City had ever seen, and everyone kind of wondered, is violence going to break out?
Vengeance was in the air.
That was a club chapter president of an internationally recognized city. And this is some Mongol that's in his town, and he gets killed by him. They've got a save face, so it's going to get a lot worse.
The Hells Angels would retaliate. They had eyes everywhere, and they could spot a Mongol and make the necessary phone calls to round up their troops.
The San Francisco PD released the identity of the suspect they believed to be responsible for the murder, Christopher Ablett. That he was a Mongol was no surprise to the Angels.
When they released Chris Ablett's identity, it was kind of a confirmation of everyone's suspicions. Everyone kind of knew it was a rival motorcycle group.
When the police went to Ablett's home to execute an arrest warrant, he was nowhere to be found. Police would need to find Ablett before the Angels in order to avoid further bloodshed.
There was a sense after that happened that, wow, this guy needs to turn himself in.
October 4th, 2008. Ablett surprised everyone by walking into a police station in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, more than 1,700 miles away from San Francisco. He had been a fugitive for a month.
He just walked into a police station and said, you know, I think people might be looking for me. And indeed they were.
Ablett was turned over to the SFPD and pled not guilty to murder. But the case is ongoing. And the fear of reprisals remains high.
The killing of the San Francisco president will add a lot of fuel to the fire. It will exacerbate the situation tenfold.
The more exchange of, killing each other is just going to prolong the ongoing war.
It's last man standing. A popular misconception is that wars only last a brief period of time. Fights may last a brief period of time. A war goes on forever.
San Francisco is in the grips of a brutal gang war between the Hells Angels and the Mongols Motorcycle Club. The killing of local chapter president Mark Papa Guardado has put the city on edge. His alleged murderer, Mongol Christopher Ablett, is behind bars, but tensions remain high.
Well, we've now had violence between the Hells Angels the full length and breadth of this state. Mongols are attacking them in Humboldt County. They're attacking them in San Francisco County. They're attacking them in Southern California.
You should hate a Mongol because you're a Hells Angel. You should hate a Hells Angel because you're a Mongol. These people have been carrying that hatred for a long time.
December 20th, 2008. Las Vegas, Nevada. The Special Memory Wedding Chapel. Members of the Mongols and Hells Angels unexpectedly ran into one another.
One of the prospects from the Hells Angels was getting married. So you had numerous members of the Hells Angels present. And you have the wedding that's scheduled right after it, perchance, is a Mongol.
The Hells Angels and the Mongols spotted each other, and a fight immediately erupted.
The end result is 2 Mongols are stabbed and beat, and one of the other Mongols is severely beaten.
The Las Vegas police are still investigating, but say the battle shows that the Mongols and the Hells Angels are willing to go to war anytime, anywhere.
As the two clubs come into more direct, more frequent contact, there's certain to be more violence. Anytime there's violence, there's a risk for innocent civilians being killed. And I expect that's what's going to happen.
Adding to this war is the presence of the ultra-violent Sureños gang members who joined the Mongols. These new recruits are known for their brutal acts against rival gangs.
The Mongols wanted to recruit the street gangsters to increase the numbers, knowing that the street gangsters are not afraid to commit acts of violence.
The vicious tendencies of the Mongols' new members could escalate the war with the Angels even further.
If they work with another gang, I'm sure they got also ulterior motives to be working with that gang. And if they're tied up with the Mongols, I guarantee they will do any violent act necessary to achieve their goals.
The potential for serious violence has drawn major attention from law enforcement. So far, the Mongols have felt the heat much more severely. In 2008, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms arrested 61 Mongols and charged them with methamphetamine distribution and assaults on rival gang members. The The raid revealed a 3-year-long undercover racketeering investigation.
Several other Mongols were arrested here in California and Nevada. Large amount of cash was seized, weapons were seized, over 50 motorcycles seized.
The news only got worse for the Mongols when a federal judge granted an injunction against the gang. If a member of the Mongols wears his patch in public, law enforcement are allowed to seize his vest. It's a major blow to this fierce motorcycle club.
We're going to kill ourselves off. We're going to kill the clubs off. Right now, they got indictments. The Mongols can't fly their patches. Well, you don't think that's going to stop with us? If they get this through, they're going to go against all the clubs, and we're going to wind up destroying everything.
That's a big thing because the colors is what they live for. That's their identity. That's who they are. And they're not going to be so intimidating walking around with a Mongol's belt buckle as opposed to a Mongol's patch.
The authorities are also targeting the Angels. Anthony Tate left his FBI undercover assignment inside the gang and has testified against them.
One of the things I believe in is a swift and speedy justice. It really frustrated me that these guys that had committed all these murders and done all these terrible things were not in prison. They were just out doing their thing, hadn't been caught yet.
Tate's testimony against high-level Hells Angels members set off a barrage of indictments.
The evidence that we had taken, hundreds of firearms, pounds and pounds of narcotics, pounds and pounds of explosives from members all over the United States.
The situation has been a major blow to the Angels. And with their code of silence broken, the gang has changed their Death's Head logo.
You'll notice the mouth is closed and they're stitching across the mouth because we don't talk about club business.
Tate now lives in hiding, convinced that the Hells Angels will retaliate if they know his whereabouts.
They would do it. They would do it if there was an opportunity. As far as continuing to look for me, they do on occasion. However, the person that tries to collect on the hit, if they're successful, the Angels won't pay. They won't pay. They'll just cap him when he comes to collect his money.
Roger Pinney is on probation for his involvement with the Laughlin incident and is no longer permitted to associate with members of the Mongols. He says he regrets that the war even got started.
And they're all the same when it comes right down to it. You know, that's why it's so stupid. You know, we all love motorcycles, we all love to ride, we all love to party, and we love brotherhood. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. Unfortunately, someone steps on somebody's toes and then everybody wants to kill each other.
The new generation of members are hungry for power and are not interested in stopping the battle.
Most of the younger members have no clue as to what started the war. I don't think they know as to why they're really fighting each other, and that's what's expected of them. They're expected to hate the enemy.
I will give my life for this club. You know, don't get it twisted. Anybody out there watching this, if I can die so the club name can move on, I'll do that.
The war is in the DNA of both gangs and shows no signs of slowing down.
There's going to be wars. As long as there are colors, as long as there's patches, as long as there's that who has to be alpha dog, there's going to be wars.
I wouldn't know how to use the proper adjectives to describe it. How much hate can you have? I mean, is this like Arab-Israeli? You know?
I don't know if there's any into it, but do we really want to go on, you know, killing each other? Because it's not going to end. It never is going to end. War's hell. No, you know, that's the bottom line.